In Wetumpka, we are patriotic Americans. We peacefully assemble. We petition our government. We exercise the right to free speech. And we don't understand why the government tried to stop us. I'm not interested in scoring political points. I want to protect and preserve the America that I grew up in. The America that people cross oceans and risk their lives to become a part of. And I'm terrified it is slipping away. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Break. You would have never had a question asked of you. You could go out there and say anything you want in the world. And I get the feeling that many of you and my Republican colleagues just don't believe, or you believe you should be free from political targeting, but that you should be free from any scrutiny at all. The Republicans were looking for a conspiracy where there isn't one. Anything else, like the circus that's happening in the Oversight Committee or here, is simply political theater. It is diverting attention from what we ought to be doing on this committee, is rewriting the law.
Well, McDermott is so far in the tank. He's such a lapdog of the left that he hasn't even received the message from the Democrats that you're supposed to acknowledge it was wrong and to apologize, which was done by the Democrat who was the ranking member on the committee today. The president himself called the conduct outrageous. The new director of the IRS has said it was a breach of trust of America. And McDermott is pretending that somehow it was the fault of the Tea Party because, like all Americans, they followed the law, made application for legal exemptions of one kind or another, and were discriminated against. I mean, it is almost, it's embarrassing. But I think some Democrats are beyond embarrassment on this. There is no defense. Even Democrats admit there is no defense. The only question is where the idea came from, who knew, who gave the order, who condoned it, and then who learned about it later and did nothing. And those are the important questions. Today was important because it gave a face to what is a number, a 501c4, which is an abstraction. It showed how the First Amendment really affected real people. And that now is done. I think from now on, the task is to trace the chain and to find out where it went, high up, who started it, and who knew about it.
I should point out, McDermott did say what happened to you was unfair, but it was a mistake. He then went into his continuing.
Well, how can you say it's a mistake and unfair and then say you are responsible because you applied? That's a contradiction. So he isn't even in the tank. He's completely illogical.
Because they were seeking to have a status as a tax-exempt group dedicated to doing social welfare, not to politics. So it's a matter of, are you mostly a political group? That's a different take, a different status. Or are you in fact, a social welfare group that should be protected under a 501c4?
Of course, the question comes, where are the liberal groups
That's
targeted?
what I just said. I agree.
I mean,
should have been
Obama
across
for
the
America
board.
or whatever.
Should have been across the board.
But you're wrong even on this, because the C4 is allowed to do political activity.
Right, but not primarily, Charles.
As long as it's under half, as long as it's
right,
under
so
50%.
not primarily. And what you see in Wetumpka was simply going after, on this initiative, defeat Obama. So they became a political group.
How do you know that?
Well, it's reported. It's been in the papers.
It's reported. It's been in the papers. My God, that's the truth, right? As long as you can show the IRS that you're spending less than half your money, it's completely legal.
Right, so they would have to show it, Charles. They have to.
Friend of mine, former law partner, was the Republican nominee, Al Salvi. He was falsely accused of breaking federal law. Finally, Al says, I'd like to speak to the person with authority in this case, because surely if they understood the facts, they would dismiss this case. The person at the other end of the phone in charge of enforcement at the time said, we will dismiss this case if you pledge to never run for office again. The person at the other end of that phone was Lois Lerner.
Look, this is Banana Republic stuff. And I think they ought to bring her, as I've advocated here before, give her immunity, ask her that question, and see what the truth is. Because if she lies on that, she's in real trouble.
Can you tell us about the secret email account you have?
Madam Secretary,
Could you just give us...
There is no secret email account. There's a public email and a private email, and they're all FOIA-able. They're all available. And 28,000 emails a month come into the public email. About 400 come into the private email. It's just a management issue. I can't possibly answer or screen all of them, and I want people to get timely answers.
You know, I'm just trying to be sensitive to this because I fully believe in transparency, but as I sit here, I tell you, you know what, I have a private email because I want to be able to do business with people or my family without everybody deluging me and spamming.
Well, in fact, Lisa Jackson, the EPA administrator, essentially left during that time because she was operating as Richard Windsor.
Right.
Senator Vitter talked about that
That's who
today.
I'm talking, yes.
Yeah,
right.
Take a listen.
I've been confronting this for months in the case of EPA. You know, we went around and around with the so-called Richard Windsor emails.
And that was Lisa Jackson, and there were many FOIA requests, months and months. They were not answering any of it, and it was tied to Richard Windsor without tapping into that account. So he's saying, Charles, that it's a convenient way to kind of get around the transparency issue.
Well, in fact, Juan's private email account is Richard Windsor. Just want to tie all the conspiracies into one here. Look, I'm sympathetic with Juan's view on this. I know that I'll let the shock wear off for a second. There are two reasons that you could do this, for efficiency or secrecy. I think Sebelius's argument is acceptable. She gets a lot of stuff. She has a private account. As long as the identity of the account is known and revealed to anybody who inquires, I think it's okay. What Lisa Jackson, Lisa Jackson at EPA, is to create a persona, this false guy, apparently doing stuff that would make it look as if it's a real person, giving him an identity. And that is clearly a way to hide. I mean, otherwise you don't do that. You change, you know, you can have a second or a third email account that everybody can see is yours, or even if they can't, you have a repository where it's known and revealed to investigators. But what Jackson did clearly is an issue of secrecy and hiding. But I give Sebelius a pass on this unless it can be shown that she was hiding the identity of her accounts from everybody.
We should point out in the grapevine, we said Richard Windsor received ethics awards from the EPA.
Well,
it's true.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a true
that's
story.
because of
Absurdity.
Juan's exemplary behavior.
Thank you, thank you.
This has been a Sunfish production.